Hey everyone. Well, here's the bow shuriken video. I'm going to do more explaining on where to get items and what's what than actually showing you how to grind, because that's pretty much all this is just you just grinding a sharp point on a piece of steel. So I'm going to show you different ways of grinding the steel, as in different shapes and cuts. If I have time, I'll actually grind one, but we'll see. It's more important about everything else about this than actual showing me sitting there on a bench grinder grinding something that's kind of boring. So what we'll do is we'll start off with the make, size, and shape of your shuriken. Now there's the three that I make a lot is round, square, and hex. You got your round shuriken. This was one of the cheap ones that you buy, that the tips bend all the time. You got your square, like this, and these are my favorite. And you have your hex shaped. So you figure out which ones you want. Now the round material like this you can buy in any of the types of steel. The 1018, which is the soft steel, you can buy at Lowe's or Home Depot. You can buy not a huge 36 inches of it. You can make a lot out of there. The 1045 is hard to find, so you might not be able to find that. 01 is a tool steel. That's what this shuriken's made out of. And I got square stock of that, 36 inches. It's like 14 bucks. It's a little more expensive, but it's a higher grade steel, and I'll show where you can get that. And then there's your hex, like I said, your hex shaped, which I'll show where you can get this or where you can find these. And all my hex shaped shuriken are 1045, which I prefer this over those two, but that's all personal preference. So once you figure that out, then there's the sizes: the 1/4 inch, 5/16, 3/8, 1/2 inch. You got your 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch hex. This is a 1/4 inch square. This is a 5/16 hex. I'll show an example of what I make some of these shurikens out of. This is a 3/8 Allen wrench, which I would just cut off the one end. And then you got your 1/2 inch hex. I also got a piece of 1018 3/8 round. So it's all personal preference. You can see just the amount of variances there are. You can make multiple different types out of different steels, different shapes, and different lengths. Now the length of a shuriken, that once again is a lot of that's personal preference. My favorite ones are about 7 inches. Those fly best for me. I know a lot of them. This one is a 6 inch, and you can even go smaller than that. If you look online, I think there's a website called Secrets of Shuriken. I don't know if that's still up or not, but a lot of sizes and shapes on there. So you have all those to deal with. And move this over. Now, when you're grinding tips on there, you can see this is the cheap one that you can buy, and they come in sets of 5 with a little armband. That's kind of pointless. But this is just a round grind on there, and this is, I'm not a fan of the round grind. It bends easily. The tip is too much of a needle. This breaks, so I'm not a huge fan of the round. You also have just a flat grind that you can do. This works very well. You just got to watch that it doesn't come to too much of a needle point. This one comes to an extreme needle point because I was testing out how this 01 tool steel holds up. On your hex, you can actually grind each one of the hexes, so it's 6-sided. This kind of grind is very sturdy, holds up very well, and it looks cool. But you can see that doesn't really even come to a needle point. That's a pretty stout point, but penetrates just as well. Here's another. This is a 3-sided grind on a hex, which that holds up very well. But my all-in-all favorite of all is a grind I saw that Hozan Suzuki does on a lot of his shuriken. I have some of his upstairs. I should have brought them down. But it's a 4-sided grind on a square stock, but it's actually on the edges. So it's not on the flat like this, it's actually on the edges. This grind is my preferred grind. I think this holds up the best. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of different combinations of everything you can do. Some of the tools that you'll use is, a grinder, which I use that to do pretty much all of it. If you want to finish it up with a file, you can. You just got to make sure that you have some water nearby to keep cooling your steel because you don't want it to get hot. Hacksaw, to cut your lengths of all your pieces from your stock. Heat and pliers. That'll come in when you're heat treating your steel, and heat treating the traditional where you just heat it up and dip it in oil pretty much only works for the 1045 and the 01 because of their carbon content. So those two will work with just an oil, which I got a bucket of oil right there. So if you're using like some old Allen wrenches, just the straight up oil quench, heating this up to a cherry red and then dipping it in. You can see I did that on this one, and I only heated up, the first part of it. All this back piece doesn't need to be heated, doesn't need to be hardened at all, just the front of it. Moving on from there, places where you can get some of this steel. Like I said, you can get the soft steel, the 1018 from, Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, Aco, Ace, pretty much any hardware store. The 01 I get from kbctools.com. You get 36 inches for about 15 bucks. I don't know how much shipping is, so I don't know how much it's going to cost, but that's where I get it from. I'm fortunate enough to live right down the street from one of these, so I can just go and pick it up. But you can search online, you can search eBay, you can search McMastercar.com. Like I said, I don't know how much shipping is because these are oversized pieces, so it might be a little bit more. But ordering like these, which is, I love these, I got dozens of these, is a straight hex shaft, and it actually came in this length, and I ordered these from KBC Tools, and it's just straight hex bits, so it's basically just a straight Allen wrench. I'm sure you can find them in a lot of other places, but like I said, I just prefer going here because I can go and pick them up. But these are a 1045. I actually questioned the company and everything to ask them what steel it's made out of. So that's where to get these, and you can get 1/4 inch, 5/16, 3/8. They got a lot of different sizes. I think the 1/4 inch it's only like $2 or $3, I think, per piece, so it's not bad. What else? 1018 steel. I know I'm kind of jumping around in this video because there's a whole lot to cover, a lot to figure out. 1018. A lot of people say you cannot heat treat this. That is completely false. You can. It just doesn't heat treat like an 01 tool steel or the 1045. What it does is it's called case hardening, to where if you have your steel like that, you get a different color. If I can try and show you an example. Here's a blue. Oh, there we go. It's a green marker. So instead of heat treating the whole thing all the way through, it's only going to heat treat the outside skin of it. So it's not going to go all the way through it. It's not going to harden all the way through the steel. It's just going to be, you know, an outside layer of it. It's called case hardening. And it does work. I mean, it's for the purpose of shuriken, it does work. I don't like these to be too hard, because if they do bend or anything like that, I can just take a file and, you know, resharpen the point. That's pretty much what I did here. This is a 1018, and I can just resharpen that down to a point if it bends or anything, because it's not hardened all the way through. Now, heat treating 1018, that comes into a whole nother debate. You know, if you want to spend the money on it, you can send it out and have a company do it, but a lot of places won't do small batches like that and all that. But what you can do at home is called super quench. It's a mix of water, salt, Dawn dishwashing liquid, and jet dry. And you mix that all together, and you can pretty much case harden 1018. Not as good as a company can do it, but it does actually work. I have used this method. Works just fine. I know the mixture for this, I mean, it's a huge mixture. It's like 5 gallons of water, 5 pounds of salt, I think 32 ounces of Dawn dishwashing liquid, and 7 ounces of jet dry. I mean, it's a huge barrel of it. I mean, if you want to go out and do all that, and you got a huge bucket where you can do that, that's great. I did scale it down. You know, I divided everything and scaled it down to a smaller quantity, and it still works just fine. You just can't get as many quenches out of it as the larger bucket, because there's not as much material in there. But what's cool about the super quench is that it's blue when you mix everything up, and then when you'll know when that liquid is pretty much useless when it turns green. So it kind of lets you know when, hey, mixture's not good anymore, I gotta make a new batch. But that's pretty much how the super quench works. You can look that up. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube about super quench and online on how to do it and all that. So I got about 10 minutes left, what it looks like, on this camera. So what I'll do is, I got a piece of 01 tool steel, and I'll do a little bit of grinding on it. I got my grinder over here. See if I can set this up. Now, I mean, watching this is not going to be exciting, and everyone thinks that doing a how-to video on shuriken is going to be, you know, really cool and all that, but really it's just cutting pieces of steel and grinding a point on them. It's not that in depth as you know, you say the Kusarigama video or any of the other ones I did, but you'll see, you know, slowly how it comes to shape when I start working on this. Get my water close. I'm going to start by just cleaning up one of the ends, just to kind of round it off. You can, once you've got, you know, your shapes on there, if you go to you can see right there is a belt sander or a file, you know, to clean all the burrs off or anything, just to make it smooth. This grinder kind of roughs everything out, so you might have to go back and on a sander or with a file and do your final, you know, touch-ups on it. But do a quick little shuriken, and maybe if there's enough time I'll throw it and we'll see how it works. As you're grinding it, you want to kind of check to see how each edge is going to make sure you're doing it evenly. So going back to a side and touching up on it is probably going to be necessary. Okay, I got a pretty much a rough shape going on there, so I'm just gonna go over to the sander real quick and kind of just clean it up. So now you can see it's a nice, like I like that grind on there. That's a very stout grind. You can see it's not a needle point. Needle points bend and break. But this shuriken is pretty much almost ready to go. Little heat treating on it. Some cleaning up of the steel. Maybe, you know, black oxiding it, which I know I've done a couple of videos on that using Birchwood KC Super Blue. Hosan Suzuki uses that method too, and it works really good. But it's, let me find a piece of wood or something. You know, O1 steel is very good. You know, already without it even being heat treated or anything, it's still, you know, it's pretty strong and stout. So it works very well. I just realized I can't do any throwing because my car's in the garage. I probably should have taken that out. But making a bunch of those, I think this is, a 6-inch piece. Yeah, a little less than 6 inches. You know, for $14, $15 buying one of them, you can get a bunch of pieces out of just one rod. Normally, sets of 5. That's what I have the majority of my sets in. And this, because these are my favorite, I have, I don't know, 50 of those or so. But there's a lot of different ways of doing it. Some of it's very simple. You saw that it didn't take me very long to do that on a grinder. So it's all about patience and how far you want to go in depth with these. And you can spend a lot of time on these. You know, each shuriken you can spend a hell of a lot of time doing it. And these are just basic ones, just straight ones. There's a lot of different shapes out there. Let me see if I have any on hand. I don't know if I do. No, I don't. I think a lot of them are upstairs. But like I said, there's a lot of different shapes. You know, some of them are better than others. Some of them throw better. It's all personal preference. So I suggest, you know, start off with some inexpensive soft steel and see what throws better for you, what you're more comfortable with. If you prefer, you know, round, what length, what grind works for you, and then go from there. And, you know, say, you know, the square works out great, and doing this grind is a lot easier than doing this grind, and this short length works better than that long length. Well, then you know, okay, well I'll make, you know, some tool steel ones like this because I've thrown these and these, you know, feel good. So that's really about it. I mean, unfortunately, a bow shuriken video is not as exciting as everyone thinks it's going to be. It's pretty much just a lot of grinding and understanding where to get your steels from. So check that place out. Check eBay, McMaster-Carr. Check any local stores that sell tool and die, and you'll be able to find a lot of stuff. My personal recommendation is look for straight hex bits. So hope you guys enjoyed, and next weekend I'll have another video up about how to make something else.